Hello everyone, my name is Frank Curdy and I work with Victorinox Swiss Army, and I'm here today to show you the simplicity of maintaining your edges. Victorinox is a company producing knives for professional chefs, the food service industry, the fish industry, and the retail industry for the last 127 years. So they've got a lot of experience making knives. What makes Victorinox so good? Well, the secret to any good knife is not the steel alone. It's what you do to the steel. And Victorinox, for the last 85 years, has had a proprietary secret in creating a superfine grain steel that actually holds an edge longer and is easier to maintain and sharpen. All Victorinox knives come with a lifetime guarantee against material and workmanship defects. You can depend on your Victorinox to give you a lifetime of cutting pleasure and proper food preparation. The biggest question of all is, how do I maintain that edge? Let's first determine what is a sharp knife. The simplest way to show you that is to take the knife and slice paper with it. If it slices through effortlessly and cleanly without pulling on the paper, the knife is sharp. If you don't care to do paper, you can test it directly on food. With a tomato, which is one of the more difficult food products to slice because of the tough skin and delicate meat, if you just set it on the blade and it goes in effortlessly, it's a sharp knife. Essentially, with an onion, which has a very tough skin, it's a paper skin, the blade should grab at the skin and slice down without any slipping. If it does that, it's a sharp knife. In order to maintain edges correctly, you first have to know what an edge is. An edge on the very end of your blade is nothing more than a thin wire burr. That burr moves back and forth on the blade and can be leaning to one side or the other. Only a straight edge will cut. The quality difference in knives are all based around what that burr or that edge will do as it's being rolled back and forth, cutting into a hard surface. You may hit a bone while slicing meat, and that will lean the edge to one side or the other. In the straightening process, that edge can break away easily. This is exactly what determines the quality of a knife. If the edge breaks away quickly, you've got a knife that the steel has not been processed correctly or to its fullest, and the graining may not be consistent. As I said earlier, Victorinox has a proprietary process for getting a very fine, even distributed grain in its steel. There are easy steps and techniques to straightening the edge on your blade. The maintenance tool of choice is the butcher steel, or sharpening steel as they're commonly known. They come in many different sizes: 10-inch, 12-inch, 14-inch. Today I have a 10-inch and a 12-inch with me. The size is not important. Today we're going to use a 12-inch steel. It's a round, regular cut steel. That means that the surface has a slight groove to it and will grab the edge area of the knife and pull on it. It's also the typical size that a chef will use in the commercial kitchen. There are two steps to steeling. Unfortunately, in today's cutlery world, one of the steps has been long forgotten, and it's one that's very important to maintaining and lengthening the life of your edge, and that's called feathering. Feathering is to pull your edge out, to bring it up, almost like taking a bird's feather and straightening it. So feathering the edge is a reverse of the typical steeling. You've seen chefs maintain their knives in this fashion, pulling down in one direction. Feathering is a reverse of that. You put the edge facing away from you and you pull it from heel to tip in this fashion. 1, 2, 3 times and your pulling edge up. Then the next step is straightening and aligning. You bring the edge to its typical position. The position of holding the knife to the steel is to hold the back of the knife approximately 1/4 of an inch up off the steel. That will set the angle of the edge to approximately 15 degrees. That is 15 degrees on one side of the knife. And bring it down, heel to tip in this fashion. No more than 2 to 3 strokes. You can also put your steel on the counter securely and hold the back of the blade 1/4 of an inch off the steel and drag it from heel to tip on both sides, like so. No more than 3 strokes. Beyond 3 strokes, you're actually taking material away from your blade. You're doing more damage than good. You want to lengthen the life of your edge, not continue to wear it. That will allow your edge to come up and be nice and straight and do a great cutting job. Now, as a demonstration, I'm going to take the edge off of this knife. We know that the knife cuts cleanly, goes right through that tomato. We're going to do the unthinkable. We're going to actually take that edge off the knife. I've rolled it all the way to one side. It should not perform at all after doing that. You can see that it tears the paper. I can make it cut, but it catches and it tears. It will also have a hard time cutting into this tomato. You can make it cut, but it's a push, it's an effort. In addition, on onions, which have a very tough papery skin, you can see that it doesn't want to pierce the skin. I can make this knife cut, but it takes effort. And a dull knife is an unsafe knife, so you really want to straighten this edge. Taking the steel, as I described before, again, step A is feather the edge. No more than 2 or 3 strokes, pulling your edge out, reverse, and straighten and align. That knife should cut cleanly and effortlessly without pulling. If steeling is not what you'd like to do and you don't feel confident with it, there is a quick and simple method to achieve near equal results. Very simply, with this little device here. It's called the Swiss Sharp. The Swiss Sharp has a set of tungsten carbide blades that are set at a perfect 30-degree angle, which is very close to the same angle that the factory puts on their knives when you buy them. It's very simple to use. You merely have to put your knife on the counter with the edge facing up. You do have a protective guard that protects you against hitting into the edge with your fingers. You start the device at the heel of the knife and drag it forward to the tip. You do that twice, maybe 3 times, if your knife hasn't been maintained in quite a long time. And it will cut a perfect 30-degree angle, which is 15 degrees on both sides of the blade, and it will put it in cutting shape, just like when you bought it. The next procedure is full sharpening of your blade. That is the point where you're going to thin out the edge area and bring up a brand new edge. I have in front of me a 3-way stone unit. This is what's used in most commercial kitchens. It contains a fine, a medium, and a coarse stone. The coarse stone will probably be the least frequent used. It is meant for taking serious nicks and chips out of your blade. The medium and fine stone will be the most frequent. Medium to thin the blade quickly, and fine to finish off the edge and polish the edge. If your knife is in reasonably good shape, you'll use the fine stone most of the time as a finishing and polishing process. In using stones, you must keep the pores of the stone from becoming clogged. If the stone pores become clogged, they won't be effective in thinning out and removing material from your blade. There are two substances that are generally used for this. One is an oil, a food-safe mineral oil that's provided by the stone manufacturer and is very good for floating the structure of steel that you're pulling off of the blade. It prevents it from becoming clogged. The other substance is plain tap water. Today, I've chosen to use plain tap water because it's less messy and is easier to clean up. You typically dip your stone in the water to get a film of water on the surface of the stone. Now, the technique to hone or stone a knife is to be very consistent. First, hold that blade 1/4 of an inch off the stone, as you did with the steel. The steel, you're setting the angle, you're doing the same thing with the stone. The exception is you're thinning that edge area out. You start from heel and pull to the tip in a slightly arcing motion. Be consistent with your pressure and your stroke from heel to tip on both sides of the knife, making sure to maintain that 1/4 of an inch angle. It may take several strokes to get the proper thinness, but each time you do it, you're getting closer to a high performance edge. When you're finished, go to your steel to just dress, straighten, and align your edge, and you have recreated a brand new performing edge that is razor sharp.